Hello everybody and welcome to City View Coaching's video tutorial on how to do a current market analysis or CMA for a listing appointment that you're about to go on, or maybe a buyer that you're going to put an offer in on a property that they really like. Now, I've done a couple things to prepare for my CMA today. I'm logged into MLS with my agent information, and then I have also saved on my computer the MLS data form as a PDF. So I'm going to be referring to that frequently in order to get all the data in order to make my CMA. Now, I went ahead and pulled up an expired listing as if I'm going to go on a listing appointment with a recent expired. Now, the process is going to look the same on the buying side if we're going to be working with a buyer to purchase a property that's still on the market. Instead, we would be looking at that active listings MLS. Now, if your listing appointment hasn't previously been on MLS, I would definitely recommend to give that seller a call before doing your CMA, before going on the listing appointment, and get the necessary information like the address, the when they had bought it, how many bedrooms it is, when did they build the house, how much square footage it is, how big is your lot, bedrooms, bath, any features that they think are important to the house, maybe how long they've lived there, stuff like that to really pre-qualify your seller client before starting your CMA, because things like that, if we're wrong, will really affect our CMA, and we'll see why in a minute. You can get some of the data on the County Appraisal District's website when you do a property search. Yet no, that'll really limit you to maybe the square footage, the number of stories, and then maybe you'll get when it was built. Other than that, we won't know too much. So if it's not on MLS, give your client a call, get the information before continuing. Now, in MLS here, I'm going to go ahead and add them as a new client because I haven't worked with them before. I'm going to click on Add New Client over here. Now, if your front page here looks different than mine, it's going to be okay. It just means that you can move around these tiles as you need. Easy. I'm going to click on Add New Client, and this brings me to a form where I can fill out my client's information. There's a lot on this form, yet since my client is already in my eEdge database, I'm just going to do what has stars on it and move on. And I'm going to go ahead and pretend that I am the client. Okay. All right, guys. And I went ahead and put it in an email, even though it doesn't have a red star on it, because if I want to email this report to the client, or if I want to put them on a property search where they automatically get an email from me, it's not going to work if I don't have their email address in there. So at the very least, let's go ahead and put an email. Status, what kind of client best describes them? And if it's buyer, seller, what best describes them in type? Allow reverse prospecting. This means that when you put the buyer on an MLS property search, the listing agent will then get a notification with your contact information if the listing gets emailed to your client, to the client in question, if it maybe just matches the criteria of a client when you put the criteria in, and if your client marks it as interested, not interested, or maybe on their property search. Totally up to you what you want to click there, yes or no. And that's all the information that's marked with a star. Now up here at the top, it's marked Client Portal Modern, Mobile Friendly. That just means that if your client accesses their information from a mobile device, it'll give them the mobile friendly version instead of the web page version of the website. When I click Add, it'll generate them into a client. Now if I ever want to get back to this client, I can just go to my clients here, and all of my clients are listed here in alpha order. Okay, there I am. These little tabs up here are different sections that we can save stuff in. We're not going to go over them all. For example, in our property search video tutorial, we looked at this one. And we're going to focus right here on the CMA search. Any CMAs that you have saved to your client's profile will generate in here. And you can also go to the top right to click New CMA to start a new one. You can edit them once they're saved or go back and review them. So we're going to start a new CMA. Now, for this example, I'm going to just pretend as if I'm going on this expired listing appointment. Remember, it'll look the same if we're working with a buyer who is looking to purchase the property. We're just going to be reviewing the active on the market property flyer from MLS. So I'm going to give it a name, and I like to call it the address of the property, just in case maybe they have a couple different properties, or maybe my buyer is thinking about putting an offer in on a couple different homes. I want to be able to find it easily. We're going to identify what kind of property it is. It's a single residential. And if we didn't already add in our client information, we'll go ahead and click here to add new client, or you can choose for your current list of clients. Again, that'll be in alpha order by last name. When I click continue, it's going to bring me to a CMA generation page. The first tab here will add in all of our comparables. If we have a specific MLS number that we know we want to include in our CMA, we can type it in here. That is a little bit more tedious to do with every single one. Instead, I definitely recommend to find comparables, and we'll go over that in a minute. Our next tab up here is subject property. Now, if it has been on the market before, or if you're working with a buyer that's putting in an offer on the house, I definitely recommend to fill out subject property here so that it can do a side-by-side report and give you next to each other comparables on your subject property and your comparables. So I'm going to just type in the MLS number and let it autofill. If it hasn't been on the MLS before, you can hand type in some of this information if you'd like. Okay, and there is my listing. Now always save as you go in MLS in case you lose internet connection or accidentally X out of your box up here. It's not going to automatically save, so save as you go. So now that our subject property is in, I'm going to go back to comparables. And I'm going to click on Find Comparables. Now this is going to bring us to a form. And we can decide in our form here what we want to filter by. Now, to start off with, let's just make this as broad as we can so that we can hopefully end up with maybe 3 to 8 properties that really match our criteria of the home that we are comparing against. Now, I definitely want to look at sold data. Whether going on a listing appointment or writing an offer for a home, sold data tells us the story of what the market has been responding to, more so than what's currently on the market as competition. So I like to look at sold data. I definitely think that looking at active data is helpful when you want to know what your competition is going to be when listing a home. Yet sold data, I think, is the most accurate depiction on where this property is going to sell at. So I'm going to click on sold data there, and depending on this type of home, I can either put in the subdivision that I want to stay within or the map area that I want to stay within. I'm going to go ahead and go with subdivision information here, and I'm going to click the magnifying glass and type in Parkwood, because according to the previous MLS, that is where the property is located. Now we see it listed a couple times because one is maybe a common name and one's a legal name, or different areas of Parkwood. So I'm going to check off the ones that I know apply. I'm going to click OK, and that generates it right here. Now I'm not going to fill out all of these, and down here is a bottom where we can add in physical addresses that we know work. Yet since I don't know any addresses, I'm going to stick to the top box up here, and maybe I want to only see homes that also have 3 bedrooms, built around 1993, and are similar in square footage. So for bedrooms, I'm going to go here and mark 3 bedrooms, and maybe 4 bedrooms as max, because maybe the 5th bedroom is really going to change my comps. I want to see homes that are similar in age. So maybe I'm going to plus and minus 5 years on my year built over here. So it's built in 1993. So if we go up 5 years, that's 1998. And if we go down, that's 1988. So I got a 5-year mark Now, depending on the neighborhood that you're doing, you might do this search differently. If you're out in the country and you don't have a subdivision, you might want to do area instead of subdivision name. Or if you're working in a neighborhood that has a bunch of different age homes, like let's say Fair Oaks Ranch, where some were just built last year and some were built in the 80s, you might do your searches a little bit differently, and that's okay. Now, I know this home is also a single-story home, and I'm going to go ahead and filter as well by other single-story homes in Parkwood that have sold in the last 6 months. So that's not currently on my list. I'm going to go to the bottom and click on Add Remove Fields. And I'm going to click on Stories. There it is. I typed it in and I found it. And I can drag it over. And you can also just search by other ones by just scrolling through this box. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to refresh my page and add it into the bottom. Now, I only want to see homes in this instance that are also single stories. Okay. Now, let's see what that gives us. If I click this count button up here at the top, it's going to tell me how many listings match that criteria so far. So I see that 8 listings have sold in Parkwood that's built between these years, between 3 and 4 bedrooms in the past 6 months that are single story. There's 11 that have sold. That's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that number. Maybe I want to add in, let's say, square footage to only get homes that are really close in square feet. I'm going to add that in. It comes here to the bottom. And maybe I'm going to plus and minus, let's say 500 square feet. So that's going to give us 26-ish and 1,600. Let's count. And that brings us down to 9. I feel pretty good about that, so I'm going to view results and see what it gives us. Now, when doing a CMA, I definitely recommend clicking through each of these homes and seeing how it compares to the subject property. Now, if you haven't been in the home before because you haven't been on the listing appointment yet, that's why it's important to ask as many questions of the seller as possible. Tell me about the quality of your home. On a scale from 1 to 10, how well kept is the home? What kind of flooring do you have? What features have you added since you bought the home? These are all really good questions to help you identify whether or not this property is actually similar to the one that you're going on. Okay. So if I like what I see, I can go ahead and click on the checkbox up here, and that will help me add it to the CMA when I'm ready. Now, if I don't think that this home's comparable, I don't have to checkbox it. I can just skip it, right? So once we review all of our listings, we can add what we've selected to CMA. We can also do it by list view over here. Now, if we think they're all really great, we can do this little shortcut up here in the blue and just checkbox them all. Or if we just don't think that, this one was way too nice and I don't want to compare it, but this one down here is not as nice and I don't want to compare it, and this one right here had a bunch of features that mine didn't, I can uncheck them all and add select comps to my CMA. And that pulls it right into here. Like we said, save as you go. And if you need to save and get back to this later, you can save and quit. And then from your MLS page, you can go back to the client and continue your CMA. Now, if you want to do it a different way, you can also do it in here. And when you view your results, it'll give you an option. Let's say we're going to look at the actives just for fun to see what our competition is going to be. You can do the search through here as well. I want to know 1988 to 1998, 3 to 4 bedrooms again, and I want to know similar in square footage. And again, that's not on my form. Add remove fields. And I also want to know single stories. So this is all the same filters that we put in earlier. We did 1600 and 2600. Again, we can click count, and it'll give us the homes that match that criteria that are currently on the market. That's the only thing that I did differently here. And when we find homes through this way that we want to add to our CMA, we can check box them again and click our little 4 houses. Start CMA or add to CMA. You can start a brand new one, or you can add to existing. And there's an existing CMA that we've recently done. We can click continue. And it brings us back to this page with that one down there added. It's going to automatically separate the different types from each other. So all of our solds will stay together, our actives will stay together, our pendings and our expireds, they will all be their own groups. Now, in this tutorial, we're not going to go over all of these tabs up here, yet I'm going to go ahead and skip over to Customize Report. And again, save as you go. And you'll be able to pick what you want to generate. Now, if you want to include your cover letter, cover page, that's fine. Your resume, bio about you, I have all of that already in my listing presentation, so I'm not going to duplicate it. The rest of this looks good. I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to save as you go, just for good measure, and then generate report. There's our subject property right there, summary, market analysis summaries for solds and then actives. And then this is what I meant by comparables side by side to each other when you put in the subject property. It puts it all next to each other in line items that you can review. Okay. Map view. And then the last page is the projected marketing price based on the comps that you have entered in. Awesome. Now, one thing in here that I didn't check off automatically that I really like to see is the CMA summary report. And then I'm going to generate that report with it. And that one looks like this, where it is reviewing all of them and giving us high, low, average, and median for all of these different criteria of our comparables. And this is what I really like to review with my client when pricing a property. I want to know the sold data ranges, high, low, median, and average for things like list price, sold price, and price per square foot. And days on market, I think, is also important to review with your clients so they have a realistic expectation of the market. Okay? So in order to get this to your client, you can print it to your printer, email it if their email address is loaded up in here. You can just save it and quit and get back to it later, or you could download as PDF. If you save as new, it's just going to generate a new CMA, which you don't need to do right here, but you can download it to your computer. You're going to get a pop-up. Your PDF is ready. You're going to click here to download it. And here it is as a PDF that we can show our client and share with them and review when pricing the home. Again, you would do the same thing for a buyer. I used the seller expired listing appointment in this example, yet when you're doing it for a buyer, you're not going to do it much different. And that is how you complete your CMA for your client. We definitely always recommend to do your CMA before going on the listing appointment and before making the offer on the home so that you look like the industry professional to your client when talking to them about price. Because this is one of the biggest investments that they are going to make in their life, and they're trusting you with that. So congrats on watching this tutorial. We hope it helps. Again, we didn't go over everything that you would want to know that MLS can do for you. So definitely go to a Sabor MLS class. They provide them throughout the month, or go through and play with your MLS. You can't break it. If you do, you could call someone. But there's your video tutorial on doing a CMA, current market analysis, for your buyers and sellers. Go get them, guys. Wishing you good luck, and let us know what we can do for you or other video tutorials that you think might be helpful.